check my patience. Where is half of my students who was present yesterday in my class, and today I don't see them? Again, I tell you, don't check my patience. I will make serious problems for you. Not like the teacher, but like the vice rector of university. I promise it for you. I promise it for you. Or we will work together, or I will not need you generally in the university. Hamza, you and I don't know, somebody from another group collected all your students and tell about it. And tell about it very seriously. Yeah, I am professor, academic, work in different hospitals. I come to read for you lecture, and you decided to not come to my lecture. Are you normal? Again, I say you, change your behavior, or I promise for you big problems. Write, please, the name of today's topic. That is topographical anatomy of head region. And this is first topographical region which I want to introduce for you. It will not be the homework to next class, because as you know, yesterday, I give you to study surgical instruments. Yeah, we work inside of the surgical instruments. This lecture we will start to study after 1 week. But this is the lecture material, and to be very attentive now, because it will be first your experience how we should study topographical regions of human body. How we should study friend. I understand you have very beautiful maybe hair dressing, but don't try to speak in my class. Yeah, especially you with your friend. I will not check is it you or no, and I will not record. I will remove you and will not give you a chance to come in my class forever. If I say you, don't argue with me. Say, sir, I understand that it will not be repeated. I will not prove you anything. I just will remove you. Okay, sir. Right, please. The region of head. Region of head. What is the logic of my subject? I told you before, and I want to repeat you once again, that we study topographical anatomy by division of the human body into regions. And first region, which I want to now start to study with you, of course it needs a long time to study one region. Approximately 1 month we will study each region, yeah? And head region also, it's not exception. But I will start today, and I will show for you the main principles, how we will study all regions of the human body. As you remember, I told you that during this semester, we will study together 3 regions. It is head, neck, and thorax region. Maybe we will start on the upper extremity, comparable with the time. Now let's start to speak about region of the head. Now listen me attentively. What will be necessary to write, I will tell you. Generally listen. And don't try to write any my sentence, because information is written. Only we will read the most important points. Now look to me. First of all, if I start to speak about the region, I should give for you borders of this region to understand where it is started and where it is finished. Head region has only one border. It is border from the region of the neck. And how this border pass? In the picture you can see it by black lines, but I will show it in my body. Look please to me. The border is start from inferior margin of my mandible and come up to the angle of my mandible. From angle of my mandible, it is passed by posterior margin of vertical process. Then it goes by anterior and posterior margins of my mastoid process. Then it is continuous by my superior nuchal line up to the external occipital protuberance. The same you can see in this picture. Inferior margin of mandible up to the angle, posterior margin of vertical process, anterior posterior margins of mastoid process, superior nuchal one, external occipital protuberance. Now listen and remember forever. As the borders or as the projectional points, we can use only visible or palpable structures. All these structures which I mentioned now, we can see like inferior margin of the mandible, or we can palpate like superior nuchal line, external occipital protuberance. If structure is not visible and non-palpable, it cannot be used as landmark for bordering, I don't know, for projections, for skeletotopy, for anything else. Let's say sometimes then you give some stupid answers, like for example, organ will be projected by direction of internal surface of, for example, iliac bone. This iliac bone internal surface is not palpable and it's not visible. Let's say it cannot be used anyhow for landmarking. Or internal surface of your vertebra. I don't see it. I cannot insert it my finger so much to palpate it. External surface I can palpate, but internal no. Let's say please, in time of your controls and in time of your exams, don't give such kind of the answers. Only we use like landmark for something, for skeletotopy, for border, for syntopy, I don't know, for projection, only visible and only palpable structures. Let's say you understand now how our head divided from our neck region. And we will start now to divide this region of the head into portions, into parts. Now remember please, division number one, right please, head region divided into two big parts. First one we call cerebral part of the head, and second one we call facial part of the head. Cerebral and facial parts of the head. Or we say cerebral, skull, and facial skull regions. Now look everybody to me. In the picture number 2, it's also visible, but look again to me. How we make this division? Again, I use imaginary lines. Now my imaginary lines start from nasion. This is midpoint of glabella. From nasion, it is passed by supraorbital margin. Then it continues by upper margin of zygomatic arch and come up to the upper margin of external acoustic meatus. Again, I show it for you. You can look in the picture. The same line is drawn. Nasion, supraorbital margin, superior margin of zygomatic arch, upper margin of external acoustic meatus. All part of the head, which is in front and below this mentioned line, we call facial skull. All part of head which is above and behind of this mentioned line, we call cerebral skull. Let's say this is first division of head region. Remember please, head is divided into cerebral part or cerebral skull and facial part, facial skull. Continue please. In its turn, cerebral part subdivided into two compartments. Write the names. First one we call base of the skull, and second one we call fornix of skull. Base of skull and fornix of skull. I don't take the skull model, but I think you imagine every day you look to the mirror and you see your head region. You imagine that our cranial part, which has the form of the box, and which is content your brain with the mannings, it can be imaginarily divided into base of this box and into cap of this box, which we call fornix. Let's say fornix of skull, it is lateral and upper portion of the cranial part. Base, it is inferior portion of cranial part. How we make division of these two portions to each other? Look to me. We need to find 2 points. First one we call nasio, that is the midpoint of your glabella. Second we call inio, it is midpoint of external protuberance. Now if by imaginary horizontal plane I will connect it, these 2 points, like I show now in our front head, yeah? Anteriorly nasio, posteriorly inio, and horizontal plane which is connected these 2 points. Above this plane I will have fornix, below this plane I will have the base of the skull. So right or remember, they divide from each other. I means fornix and base. By imaginary plane, imaginary horizontal plane, which is connected nasio with inio. Which is connected nasio with inio. It's not necessary to write, but it's understandable. Above the plane we will have fornix, below the plane we will have base. Fornix also we call calvaria. Remember this, it is the Greek term, calvaria, or fornix of the skull. That is same. Now let's come to the facial part. Let's come to the facial part. Hey friends, if you can't write, don't worry, all information is given in the slide. It's not necessary to find where is it. I know you like very much to write any sentence, but it's not so practically necessary. Much more better, guys, look. I'm sorry that I'm interrupted, but look me. It's much more better to listen and understand what about teacher is speaking. Then just mechanically to write without imagining what about this lecture. So if you can choose, much more better just to listen me, to understand. Because again I say, all information, I do the big work and write for you. Now look to my face. Face region in its turn, divide it again into 2 compartments. As the cranial part, as the cerebral part. It is the medial face and it is the lateral face. How we make this division? Don't write, look to me. Your orbits and all part of the face which is between these 2 natural folds. We call these folds nasolabial and labiobuccal. Let's say once again, your orbits and part of the face which is between these 2 natural folds we call medial face. Which regions located between these 2 natural folds? The nose region, mouth region, chin region. That's how remember, please, orbits together with nose, together with mouth, together with chin, included inside of medial face. What the difference between them? Just orbits, it is double region, all others is single. No any friend. This is not the, I don't know, village some discotheque. Question is asked after the lecture, not in the time of the lecture by interruption of the teacher. That is bad behavior. Now look to me, please. About the lateral face region. Lateral face, which is located laterally to these natural folds, in its turn, split it into superficial and into deep compartments by several, bless you, several bones which we have here. Especially it is 2 bones, vertical process of your mandible and zygomatic arch. The problem is that we have soft tissues and superficially to these bones and deep to these bones. Part of the soft tissues which will be deep to these bones will be called deep lateral face. Part of the soft tissues which will be superficially to these bones we will call superficial lateral face. Let's say if you will work in the facial surgery and if you will need to open deep lateral face, you must resect it, these bones. Bones should be resected to open deep lateral face region. Let's say again I tell you, this is my lateral face. My lateral face by 2 bones First one, it is vertical process of my mandible. Second, it is my zygomatic arch. Divides into superficial part, which is located outside to these bones, and deep part, which is located inside of these bones.